I think my
Sorry, we're lucky we have one of those. It's slow, really slow. But the nice part about it is it's a 1 to 400 zoom. So our 400s are like this big, they're massive. They're not little size, just a little bit. This is, we just thought. Well, she warmed up to me later. I mean, I got her name when we were talking, but yeah, she heard her mom. Well, she wasn't supposed to be there, and so she thought her mom was going to lay into her, and her mom was just happy to see her, but her mom was like, "What the hell?" It was very, I'm just like,
okay. I think it was just the batteries. No problem. Bye.
but yeah, that was full on. The thing is, oh yeah, that could have.
Yeah, we're not gonna have enough. We don't do it that way. You're fine. No, not making. Well, I know. Where are you going?
Are we ready to go? All right, you guys ready? Okay, good afternoon. I'll be discussing 6 counts that our office has filed in connection with one individual, as well as charges other agencies are in the process of filing as well. And just so you all know how this is the rundown, if you will, after I speak, U.S. Attorney Sailor Fleming is here and she will speak. Special Agent, and I'm going to mess your title up, I'm sorry, but Special Agent in Charge Rich Quinn will speak, and then with the St. Louis City Police Department, Major Ryan Cousins will speak, and then after that we'll take questions. So working in collaboration with St. Louis County Police Department, the U.S. Attorney's Office, FBI, our office, we have issued 6 counts against Perez Reed. On Saturday, November 6th, we issued those charges, 2 counts of murder in the first degree, 1 count of assault, 1 count assault first-degree armed criminal action. As to the first count of murder in the first degree, it is alleged that at approximately 9:34 p.m. on September 13th, the defendant shot at Marnay Haynes at least 2 times and killed her on the 9900 block of Glen Owen Drive in St. Louis County. Shell casings were recovered at the scene. As to the second count of murder in the first degree, it is alleged that at approximately 7:15 p.m. on September 26th, the defendant shot at Lester Robinson at least 2 times and killed him on the 1700 block of Barbados Lane in St. Louis County. Shell casings were also recovered at that scene. As to the 1 count of assault in the first degree, it is alleged that on September 12th, the defendant shot a 3rd victim in St. Louis County multiple times in the chest. He sustained serious physical injuries and permanent disability. Shell casings again were recovered at the scene. While most details of the investigation should not be disclosed to preserve the integrity of this and future investigations, in our probable cause statement we did disclose a few facts. Allegations. The defendant was arrested in possession of a .40 caliber handgun that matched shell casings located at the body of all 3 victims. The .40 caliber handgun in possession of the defendant also matched additional casings located at the scene of multiple homicides in the city of St. Louis, as well as in Kansas City, Kansas, which the FBI can elaborate on. These incidents were investigated by the St. Louis County Police Department, the FBI, KMOX. You guys need to help me out here. This is your, that's not staying up for me, that's okay. Okay. These incidents were investigated by the St. Louis County Police Department, St. Louis City, FBI, and the defendant was apprehended by an FBI task force and is being held in federal detention. His bond in St. Louis County, should he be transferred to St. Louis County, was set by the court at $2 million, cash only, and no 10%. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to U.S. Attorney Saylor Flynn.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Bell, for having us here today. On behalf of the U.S. Attorney's Office and my colleague, Assistant United States Attorney Ryan Finland, who's here with me, I want to start by first commending all of the law enforcement agencies that were involved in this relentless investigation of these hideous and violent crimes. St. Louis County Police Department, St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department, Independence, Missouri Police Department, Kansas City, Kansas Police Department, Missouri Highway Patrol, ATF, and FBI. And I think it's important to point all of those out to show just how complicated and multifaceted this and so many other investigations are. Their collaboration, their cooperation, their communication, I think, is a prime example of what law enforcement in this region can do when they are working together. Because of that work, our office this past Saturday, November 6th, filed a criminal complaint here in the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Missouri, charging Mr. Perez Reed with 1 count of a violation of Title 18 United States Code, Section 924B. For those unfamiliar with that statute, it prohibits an individual from transporting a firearm or ammunition in interstate commerce with the intent to use that firearm or that ammunition to commit a felony crime. The arrest of Mr. Reed, I think, highlights why the relationships among federal, state, and local law enforcement is imperative. Their ability to communicate, to share information, analytics, forensics, whatever that may be, must remain strong. It must, in fact, continue to grow. If we want to see violent criminals taken off the streets and put behind bars where they belong, I think that this investigation And this arrest should hopefully provide some assurance to the community that law enforcement across the board, and despite the many obstacles that have been put in their path over especially the last couple of years, is continuing to work very hard to do their jobs, to protect and to serve, and to hopefully, in many instances, provide some justice for the victims of these violent crimes. Thank you.
Administrator in charge, Rich Quinn.
Thank you, Wesley, and thanks, everybody. Saylor, as usually is her practice, has stolen most of my thunder today, but I would be remiss if I did not talk about just how great the FBI for federal, state, and local partnerships, but in particular this the competency and the diligence of the St. Louis County Police Detectives, the St. Louis City Police Detectives, the FBI St. Louis Safe Streets Task Force, the Kansas City FBI Safe Streets Task Force, and the Independence, Missouri Police Department, as well as the Missouri State Highway Patrol and the ATF. Basically what happened, I'm sure you have access to all of the documents that are online right now. Essentially what we had was this in September of this year. We had 6 shootings in the St. Louis area, 3 in the county, 3 in the city. 4 fatalities, 2 in the county, 2 in the city. The commonality amongst them were handgun casings. We knew they came from the same handgun. We also had a description from several witnesses and one victim that had highlighted some unique physical characteristics of the subject. However, that's where we ran up against a little bit of a wall. Enter in the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department. There was an individual whom they suspected had committed 2 shootings in their AOR. That information about the suspect was passed to the St. Louis City Police Department, at which point in time we were able to compare the information provided by the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department with the information that we had developed here in St. Louis. And it's at that point in time we were able to link. And I will let both the county and the city representatives discuss in a little bit further detail about what that entails. But I will say this to reiterate what Saylor talked about. This is a prime example of what you get when you leverage the authorities, jurisdictions, and resources at the federal, state, and local level to address violent crime. I believe we did good. I believe we took a violent predator off of the street. Thank you.
Major Cousins.
Good afternoon, Major Cousins. On behalf of the Chief and the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department, I'd first like to express my condolences to the victims' families for this subject. I hope that this arrest somehow brings closure, at least a little bit to their families. I'd also like to express the thanks from the Chief of the cooperation from all the agencies behind us, St. Louis County, the city, FBI, a USA attorney. As expressed before, this shows what a great cooperation, what the results can be. For over 2 months now, these detectives have worked tirelessly on this case, which has brought us to this successful result. I am certain that without their efforts, this subject would have went on and committed more homicides. I would like to thank specifically the work of Sergeant Ron Fiala, Detective Donnie Thurman, Scott Peniston, Dave Rudolph, and Jeff Steggy, who has been tirelessly working on this case and have contributed a lot of times their personal time away from their families in the hopes that they would achieve this result. Again, and if there's any further questions later on, I'll have Detective Rudolph answer your questions, and thank you very much.
Thank you, and I'll say briefly before we open it up for questions, as Major Cousins said, obviously our thoughts and prayers go out to to not only the victims, but the victims' families in this matter. And to reiterate what U.S. Attorney Fleming said, this doesn't happen without collaboration. Those who are inclined to commit these kind of crimes are not doing it adhering to borders and jurisdictions. So it's imperative that our local law enforcement as well as our prosecutors' offices are working together collaboratively to make this community safer. And so I appreciate everyone up here and the work that they've done and the collaboration we've seen throughout the years, particularly since I've been here, that I can speak of. So with that said, we'll open it up for questions. Let me at least finish, Kevin. So with that said, Kevin, I'm going to get to you. I just want to make sure that I acknowledge that part of it. And with that, I'll go ahead and open up questions. And I'm going to start. Kevin, go ahead.
Good afternoon. You've told us how you caught him. You've got some good evidence. But who is the man at the center of this? What can you tell us more about Perez Reed? What made him tick, and why did he kill the people that he killed? Can you give us just a glimpse into that?
You know, right now, and I remind you all of this every time we do this. The defendant has a right to a fair trial. And so we're going to be careful with what we say that's beyond the probable cause statement so that we can ensure that we don't try this, find some error, and have to do it again. Also, this is an ongoing investigation, and so I'll leave it at there for now. But I will say, with respect to motive, that's not one of the elements of the crime. And so we just have to prove the elements of murder in the first, ACA, as well as assault first. Motive is not one of those elements. If there comes a time when we have more to elaborate, we'll do it at that time.
So is it safe to say we have a serial killer off our heads here? Call him serial killer now.
There's things that you can say that I cannot say. My understanding, the definition of a serial killer is one who's committed 3 or more crimes. All I can tell you is, or what I can refer to, is the charges that we filed, and you can draw whatever conclusions you choose. But as far as us, what we filed is 2 counts of murder in the first degree, ACA, and assault first.
What is the status of
Christine?
the charges in the city of St. Louis right now?
I'm sorry?
What is the status of the charges in the city of St. Louis right now and in the city of Kansas?
I know they're in the process of filing. I will let someone with St. Louis City Contingency speak to that as well as. Okay.
Good afternoon. I'm Lieutenant Longworth, St. Louis County. To my left is Detective Rudolph, and to my right is Detective Whiteside. These are the main investigators on this case, or these cases. To answer your question, I believe that that's in process as far as the city charges go at this time. Am I correct?
You are.
Okay.
And do you believe there are any additional crimes this man could be responsible for in addition to the crimes we already know about in the charging documents?
None that I'm aware of, but I can't tell you there wouldn't be. These are a lot of violent acts that obviously occurred in a very brief period of time. So there could be other ones prior to this. There's no way for me to know that at this time.
Early on, this case gained notoriety because people thought that he was targeting sex workers. Is there any evidence to suggest that that is the case?
I think the best way to describe that is, at this point, I don't think we're ready to say that definitively. There are some connections there that could involve that. However, I'm not ready to say that that's a fact.
How many sex workers were killed by him that you all know?
Again, I can't say for sure they were sex workers, so I don't want to give you a number on that.
So could you tell us, I'm sure people at home are going to be wondering, so why did he choose these victims? What's the connection between the victims? Do they know each other? Is there some sort of characteristic? What can you tell us about any connections between them?
To our knowledge, there is no connection between any of these victims. These seem to be random acts. Why? I can't give you an answer to that. This is still under investigation, and obviously further will come as we continue with the investigation.
Can you tell us what type of weapon that he used?
I believe it's in the probable cause statement. It's a .40 caliber semi-automatic handgun.
Did he have a criminal history? Was he originally charged with arson at one point? Did anyone talk
He
about
does have a criminal history. However, I don't think I'm allowed to get it too far into that. But it's really not to my knowledge, there's no other violent acts like a murder.
How many more murders are out there that you're going to be checking to see if he did those too?
I think at this point, the only ones we're concerned about is what we know about. And then, of course, Kansas City, Kansas is dealing with their issues up there. There's 2 homicides there. So they're obviously working that end of the case, which we are collectively working, thanks to our partners with the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office, as well as Mr. Bell's office and Kim Gardner's office. We're all on the same page trying to do this. A lot of this work has been done by these two gentlemen to my left and right. These guys are very dedicated, which I believe Major Cousins mentioned that earlier, and our intelligence unit from the St. Louis County Police Department, St. Louis City's homicide unit, our homicide unit. These folks have worked very hard on this and will continue to work. We have a long way to go, folks. We're not done with this by any means, and we'll see if there's any new cases that come up.
And one last question for me. In the probable cause, it says that two of the victims were shot in a distinctive manner. Did it seem that he was shooting people in a way that put his signature on the death scene?
I would say to a degree, yes. I don't want to come out and say that exactly, but from my knowledge of this, yes, it appears that he definitely had a distinctive manner in which he did it. I won't get into that. That'll be up for Mr. Bell and his staff when this goes to trial, if it goes to
So
trial.
he was putting his mark, I was here, kind of a statement.
Well, you could say that. I think you could probably look at that several different ways, but I would say that the motives was the same, pretty much the same way it was done. So.
Did the prosecutor talk about the criminal history in that arson case you were mentioning?
So I want to be careful about talking about potential prior alleged acts. And there was a case that was charged in this office previously. My understanding of it is that there were witness issues with respect to, because the alleged witness or potential victim were family members who were not interested in participating, cooperating in any type of way. I know that was originally filed about 4 years ago, I believe, and but as prosecutors as well as the U.S. Attorney's Office know, if witnesses aren't willing to cooperate in investigations, unfortunately, you can't charge or you can't move forward.
What did your office do to try to get those witnesses to cooperate with that investigation?
Now, keep in mind, that investigation started about 4 years ago, so I wasn't privy to all of it. I know it ended, I think, in 2019. From my knowledge, that was witnesses who were not willing to testify, family members who were not willing to cooperate. Is not surprising, but that's the extent of it.
This case spans a lot of geographic area, from North St. Louis County to St. Louis City to Jackson County, to Independence, to Kansas City, Kansas. Can you give us a sense of how broad the investigation was, but how you were able to link these different places together?
FBI?
Yeah, so it's a good question. The question was about, because of the broadness of the scope of the territory, how we were able to link the investigations from the various jurisdictions. And so it's really not rocket science. This is something that we do every day. We facilitate assistance for our state and local partners. But in this particular instance, it's really nothing more than having good working relationships with St. Louis County, with St. Louis City. We have our partners in the FBI across the state who have relationships with the Kansas Police Department, as well as the Independence Police Department. So once you have those relationships established, everything else falls into place from that point. It's just passing on information.
But is it shell casings that connected them? Was it
So I'm not going to get into the technical aspects of the investigation, but I will tell you, in the St. Louis area, what we were looking at is we had 6 shootings, and we knew that the shell casings came from the same gun. Okay?
We have time for a few more. Okay.
What was the moment like when he was arrested? Did he offer any statements? Was he cooperative? Did he try to resist?
Our understanding of the arrest was peaceful. That's the extent of what I can say at this point. I'm sorry, sir? I can't understand you. Why couldn't he? He could be charged with capital murder. But we charge it with murder first, and we don't intend to make this a capital case.
Can you walk us through the logistics now of what comes next in this case? With the federal case pending, when will he come to the county to face the charges, eventually city, Kansas City? Kind of just, the next.
That one I'd have to say to be continued. Obviously, he is being held on federal detainers or what have you, and at some point we will get him. here, but then also you have the city who are in the process of filing their charges as well. And so I can't tell you an exact date of when he'll be in St. Louis County custody.
Is there any concern that cooperation between local law enforcement and the federal government violated the state laws of Missouri?
I don't have any concerns. And as the U.S. Attorney alluded to, it is imperative that all of the criminal justice law enforcement stakeholders work together. And that's how we got allegedly, and I'm saying that because I want to make certain not to violate the defendant's rights, but allegedly got a violent offender off of the streets. And it does not happen without that collaboration. So no, I'm not concerned, and I would applaud the individuals standing behind me for the work that they've done. But thanks for the question, Russell. Okay. All right. Thank you.